Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Thursday, October 25th, 2018. In both the Lynn life and the Jamie body mind, the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions, and all other souls from all other dimensions, as long as the souls are already living by the search for truth rules that have been given to the search for truth community by wiser minds above all of us. The search for truth community is not the envisioner of the rules or the maker of the rules.
That's true.
We are the followers of the rules. We don't decide, we follow. The willingness to look up to wiser minds above, ask up, what now, in order to fulfill my assignments, fulfill my soul plan, fulfill my destiny, and breathe, which is necessary for many forms of life, and then to do whatever wiser minds above say to do. That's key in this community. And if souls aren't willing to do those things, then this isn't a fit. And we have a lot of souls that have been here this past week who don't really seem willing to do those things, and they still want to be considered as good people.
That's true.
And we're not trying to be judgmental, because we
No,
know how it is to want to think of ourselves as good people while also not wanting to do whatever it is that we are supposed to do.
That is very true.
And so we understand that. However, we in this dimension, in this planet, ground zero planet Earth, we are entering the crisis times. The crisis times have begun, and it's really incumbent upon all of us to stop playing our old games and stop living by the old rules and really start to move beyond selfishness. It's hard to know how to explain to others that they should care about something beyond themselves. It isn't okay to just think about ourselves. That's wrong. It's actually deviant behavior. And when the entire society becomes deviant, then it's less obvious that it's deviant behavior, but it is still in fact deviant behavior to be selfish.
That's true.
We can just pump up from the deeper, denser dimensions, and we can also report up that the planetary consciousness, Angela Merkel, is not getting the support that is being sent in, and we can see the support being dropped from much higher. It's like big Hindenburgs of support from the clouds.
That's true.
But the Hindenburgs aren't making it down through the clouds, and Angela Merkel, the support isn't getting there.
That's true.
She isn't getting the support. And instead, the messages that are coming are messages of drought,
that's true,
famine, and waste not being disposed of. Those are the messages. And now the eyes are closing, and
very much
this has been a pattern over the last week where the visiting souls just don't want to see what's actually going on.
Oh, that's true.
To the point that they are literally closing the eyes of the host life to avoid seeing. But it doesn't change things. All that does is render us less capable of functioning.
That's true.
In many different dimensions. For whom is the message? And why do you ask? Can we have a show of hands of anybody who's ready to acknowledge it's time to acknowledge that truth matters? Show of hands. Who believes it's time to acknowledge that truth matters?
I see hands.
I see hands. All right, let's just pump up dead children and their environments to those hands. These are soul refugees from the deeper, denser dimensions that have been trying to get to God by the ways they define godly presences, and have been unable to come up through the depths because the dimensions are really non-functioning. The upward flow isn't working. There are a lot of clogged portals and closed pathways, and for the most part there's not a way to get up to God.
That's true.
Here's some data for you from the depths. And we ask, can anyone see that what's coming up does not match the instruction manuals, the briefing manuals, the understanding that your dimensions have of life in the depths? Who can see it's not a match? There's many hands up, and straight up, like
That's
straight
true.
up. It's an unambiguous, I see this.
That's
And the
true.
feeling is, I see this, I don't really know what to make of it, but I can see that what you're sending up is definitely not a match for what we would expect would be coming from your dimension. And when we feel the quality of what they expect, it's something soft and nebulous.
That's
and
true.
it sounds like a fairy tale.
Yes, that's true.
Happily ever after
That's true.
kind of tone. You know what it's like? Somebody's talking in the discussion room. They're saying it's like when you see two squirrels chasing each other around a tree, and the story is, oh, look at those squirrels playing.
Yes, that's true.
But when we pay attention to what's going on, it's like a mugging or a rape.
That's true.
And what's happening is one squirrel is really trying to get away from the other squirrel, who is bullying, doing something bad to the first squirrel.
That's true.
And that's not playing at something else.
It feels like those presences in the much higher dimension are looking down at what's happening down here, and they're saying, oh, look, they're playing.
They're playing. What's happening here is that things are really bad.
That's true.
Even if we only look at one species in this dimension on this planet, and there's only one species for whom there's really good data, so we're going to have to limit it to that.
That's
right
true.
now. But this one species, there's 2.6 billion that don't have access to a toilet. It's not just that they don't have one in their house, it's that they don't have access to one.
That's true.
And the statistics on who has access to electricity are sadly no longer available, because the world has figured out that it's uncool to say people don't have access to electricity.
Yes,
so they run a
that's true.
power line to one place in a village, and then they declare that the entire village has access to electricity.
Yes,
Which
that's true.
it's all in the definition, and we guess that counts. It depends what you mean by access. We think by North American standards that's not having access to electricity.
That's true.
We think that by North American standards, fully half the world of humans in this dimension does not have indoor plumbing or electricity. They don't have it.
That's true.
And we who have it, we need to learn to share. We've got to stop being selfish. We have so much. We're so wildly wealthy in this country. Everybody who has indoor plumbing and electricity is wealthy.
That's true.
And we really need to focus on it, and that we've got to stop being so selfish. We're being morbidly selfish, and it's killing the planet.
That's true.
We who live in the West, we need to share. And we don't know how to explain to people that they should care about others and actually want to share, and that it's deviant to be selfish. And yet that's the truth. The truth is, it is deviant to be selfish.
That's true.
And when we die, as is inevitable, that point is made to all of us over and over again. What now, in order to evacuate the even deeper, denser dimensions? Who up there is willing to acknowledge it's time to acknowledge that truth matters? And friends, are you ready to acknowledge that it's time to acknowledge that truth matters? Isn't it time? Isn't it time? And if so, what are you willing to do to change how you yourself are living? How each of us, every I, every me, every us, every we, how can we change so that things don't blow apart like it looks like they're going to?
Someone upstairs keeps talking about how Angela Merkel is getting pushback for sharing or for letting immigrants come to Germany.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we had an online contact from somebody in Germany who was saying that Angela Merkel is getting bashed,
That's
much bashing, for allowing the immigrants who are fleeing Syria and Afghanistan, wars that our country is supporting and
Our country,
harboring. This one. We are the super bad guys of the planet right now.
That's true.
And her country is accepting them because we think it's because she knows that God is watching all of us all the time. God is watching us. Friends, God is watching us. It's really time to change our behaviors and stop acting so selfish. We can do it. It's time. Who's ready to acknowledge? It's time to acknowledge that truth matters. And meanwhile, upstairs, friends, she's not getting the support that is being sent to her. We can see that support is being sent in.
That's true.
But think of it this way. What if the person you loved most was isolated on a mountaintop without supplies, and it was your job to get the supplies to that person, and they were the person that you loved the most? Would you do more than what you've already done to get the supplies down to Angela? It looks like you've packed up it looks like a Hindenburg. It looks like a floatable thing,
like
and then a blimp, and then you've pushed it over the edge of the cloud, and you're watching it waft down, and then you go back to your other daily activities.
That's
saying,
true.
And now I've done that, and I feel very good about that.
That's true.
And you should feel good about it. However, it's not being received. It's not making it through the astrals. It's being stolen in the astrals. It's not getting to her.
That's true.
For whom is the message? And who knows it's time to acknowledge that truth matters? Because they just want to close their eyes.
Yeah.
They just don't. It's like,
that's true.
Quick, close the eyes, quick. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, it is. Don't look at anything.
Don't look at anything.